Your flight centre, dream centre, always within reach centre, fast centre, fair centre, power in the air centre. Start young, family fun, off at a run, number 1. Easy pivot done centre. Lucky shot, over the top. One-stop shop, never stop. Your centre, our centre, flight centre. Playing centre for over 40 years. Flight centre.
Welcome to Centre Court. This is our World Cup pop-up show, all thanks to Flight Centre. I'm Bianca Chatfield, and usually sitting alongside me as my co-host is Madison Brown, but of course she is in Cape Town, coming live to us from Cape Town this morning over there, this afternoon here. Maddie, how is it over there?
It's been so exciting to be on the ground here, Bianca. I mean, I don't know which way is up and down. There's so many things happening with so many games to be played. We're doing crosses, we're doing this and that. But it's a whirlwind. And I've obviously never been at a World Cup as a player. So it's nice to be here as a broadcaster and getting in and amongst all the action. And the Aussie Diamonds are looking pretty good, which is nice to see.
Well, we're going to get into all of that. Instead of the weekend that was, it's pretty much the week that was. Let's take a look at what has been happening over there. When we look at the pools and how things have progressed, look at this graphic. There's been a lot of going on. There's been a lot of games, as you know, Maddie. But the top 4, as we thought, Australia, Jamaica, New Zealand and England are progressing through as the top of each of those pools. The current standings, they move into Pool F, G and E. And then the road to finals gets a little bit more serious, and we're getting some more serious games coming up shortly in the next couple of days. So, Matt, I want to come to you firstly, because what happens now with these two teams? We know they're going to progress forward, but take me through the top 4. What are you thinking about the top 4? Who's impressed you the most? Who's looking the favourites?
Well, I'll start off with Pool F, which is the pool that Australia and England are in. I think Australia's obviously been quite outstanding. We've rotated through every position, lots of even minutes across the board. We've seen some standout performances, I think, from players, and only really being tested against Malawi yesterday for that half. But then all of a sudden the game blew out. Our other competitor in our pool is England. They've had some pretty smooth sailing matches as well. Once again, you might get challenged for a couple of minutes, but then all of a sudden the scoreline blows out. They will meet tomorrow, which is super, super exciting. On Group G, or Pool G, you've got Jamaica and New Zealand. Now, New Zealand was tested by Uganda in the early stages, and everyone was like, oh, maybe the reigning world champs aren't quite where we thought they would be. But once again, it's just that consistency over the 4 quarters that sometimes the smaller nations tend to lack. They can hold in there for a little bit, but they've been lacking a bit. Jamaica, for me, has probably been the most impressive from day one, having a massive 75 win against Sri Lanka. Uganda came up against Uganda, and you thought, oh, this is where they might be challenged again. But they took it comfortably by 12. They were a little bit scrappy, but they just seem to have that depth off the bench, which I think they've been missing previously, and why they haven't maybe challenged the gold medal match as much in history. So they're probably the standout for me, as well as Australia. But tomorrow, as I said, is where it all gets interesting, because this is where all these 4 teams play each other in their pool before we cross over when we get to the semi-final stages on Friday or Saturday.
Now, there has been 2 pretty major injuries. Grace Nweke, who is the superstar shooter for New Zealand, she is out. Lenise Potgieter for South Africa is also out with a knee injury. How much of a dent do you think these 2 players will make in their teams in their road to finals?
Well, it's devastating for these stories to emerge, I think, from a World Cup. You know, Grace Nweke's was just a little tweak in a game, and they came off and all the medical staff said, nah, it's okay. It was just a little bit more of a shock, and they thought, we'll just send her for a scan just to make sure. And obviously there was a patella tendon tear there, so her campaign ended. Potgieter came into the tournament, legs were strapped up. She's been struggling with a few knee injuries, I think, during the Vitality Super League. Load was a bit managed, but we all know Norma Plummer loves her 2 sessions a day, so I'm not sure that helps Lenise heading into this tournament. So huge news for those teams and their campaigns. But what it does show is the importance of the replacement players.
Yes.
And obviously this time around, we've had 3 players traveling, or some teams haven't been able to bring them due to funding, but the top nations or top teams have brought those 3 players, and we've seen the injection of those opportunities. It's such a hard position to be in. You're sitting on the sidelines, you're waiting for your opportunity, but then you know that it's at the cost of a teammate, but then at the same time, you're so elated that you get your opportunity to perform on the big stage at a Netball World Cup. So importance of those replacements players has shown dividends, I think, already with these big players out.
Yes, a very good addition, I think, to the World Cup. That was the weekend that was, all thanks to Flight Centre. Your Deals for Everyone Centre, playing centre for over 40 years. Now, Madi, it's time to go straight to you for Madi's Minute. What have you got for us?
Well, I thought rather than focusing on the big nations, I thought I'd talk about some youngsters that have kind of set the international stage alight from some smaller nations. So Unique Pallavi, we saw her in Tonga. She is someone that we've already seen. She works plays for City West Falcons in the Victorian State League. She's sitting at 92% and having put up 203 goals in the tournament, and she's only 21 years of age. So she's definitely someone to watch. Mary Cholik, we know how tall she is. She stands at 201 centimetres. She's shown that she's also got some really good hands. She does play in the Vitality Super League in England, but she's 26 years of age and sitting at 87%. So she's also impressed and someone I think to watch out. Let's go to more of rather than the bookends, let's go to the middle and have a look at the short ones. Crystal Plummer from Jamaica. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching her. She is 20 years of age. She reminds me a little bit of a Jodie Ann Ward. She can play across more wing defense center. She's an absolute go-getter. She has the ponytails or the pigtails flying around. She's got so much hops. She can read the play really well. And she's got 16 test caps so far. And then yesterday, Stu Gordy and I got to watch, obviously, Malawi versus Jamaica and Takandwa Lawasi. She's in centre. Now, she's an older veteran. She's 31 years of age. Not sure we'll ever see her in SSN, but she is just someone that just gets you excited about the game. She was everywhere yesterday, and we were devastated when she came off, but then she came back onto the court. So there's some of the names that I've been impressed with over the tournament so far.
Oh, I love it. It's so good to hear all of that because there's so much talent out there. Every team in the SSN will be wanting to be a part of it and get some of those players out here, no doubt. Well, that was Madi's Minute, all thanks to Flight Centre. Now we have something super exciting on centre court. We've been promising talking about this new 8th licence in SSN, and it was finally announced that it's right here at the Sports Entertainment Network, hold the 8th licence, and they've today, only moments ago, named their new coach. It is Tracey Neville. We're so excited to have Tracey with us. Congratulations, firstly. What a huge honour for you. I want to know why. Why did you take on this role with this new team?
The why, you're not meant to ask that in coaching, Bianca. It's a very do you know, I always wanted to coach in Australia. There was no doubt when I was coaching with the Adelaide Thunderbirds and prior to me coming out of here, you know, this wasn't just me being out here for 1 year. Going obviously towards the end, towards that grand final stage. Prior to that, I'd had conversations with Adelaide Thunderbirds about continuing my coaching in Australia, and there was no doubt that Australia was the place I wanted to be, and I wanted to continue the journey that I was on and the next step of my head coach role, my coaching role. But this come out the blue, and I got contacted by Richard Simkis and Sports Entertainment Network. They flew me a text. I won't tell you when that was, probably a little bit inappropriate, but like I say, it come out of the blue, and it was something that at the time I was a little bit in awe of. Obviously, we just won a grand final, but I did go into conversations with them, and they asked me if I would like to be part of the head coach process. And, you know, I was flying back to England that particular night, but, you know, sometimes opportunities come that come unexpected, but sometimes they're the right decisions. And I felt that after the process I went through and the conversations I had with the people involved, I felt that this was definitely an opportunity that I couldn't miss. You know, when does this ever opportunity come around?
Tracey, I mean, I know you're not probably meant to be having conversations, but I'm intrigued as to Now you get to set this team exactly the way that you wanted. Who are the players, or what are you looking for in terms of personnel to really make sure that this team's not only successful, but get some really good wins in the 2024 season?
Are you speaking from your family here?
No, I'm not at all. I mean, you can have a Brown on your list, no worries.
I think at this stage, I don't think I can talk about players. I think one of the major things for us is, we're in a position where we have no players to talk to. So that makes things quite difficult. So you've not actually got a frame that you can actually base around. And this whole process that will start on Monday will become quite a dogfight, I think, because there's obviously still no CPA been agreed. They're still going into negotiations, but also there's no time window about where we can recruit players from. So we were really clear as a management group that we actually needed a strategy based around what we were wanting to create. So players that we could tick off actually tick the boxes of what we wanted to create. And a massive thing for me, if people have looked at, where I've coached and my coaching ethos, it's about the homegrown players as well, and they play an integral part in the future of the franchise. If you're wanting to get, fan engagement, you wanted to, recruit some of the best coaches around Victoria. And I know for a fact that having played netball for a long time, there's a lot of talent around that Victoria area. And, a flying shop is not my coaching ethos or coaching philosophy to just keep flying players in. However, I'm unsure where players have sort of set their heart now, and that might be something that we may have to do at the start to rebuild. So we're pretty in this like sort of holistic area at the moment where this is our ideal, but this will be a process that we have to go to rebuild to enable us to get where we actually want to be at the end of the journey as a club.
Well, you're in prime position in Cape Town right now just to keep an eye on all the talent over there. Trace, I want to ask you about you as a coach, because we've seen you, especially this season with the Adelaide Thunderbirds. You are up in the coach's box. You are yelling and screaming and having such a great time. You can see the players really feed off your energy. Is that the type of head coach you want to be when you come to this new club? Or do you have to you can't be as relaxed because, assistant coach to head coach a bit different when it comes to what you can do on game day?
Well, I think people are saying you fluff your way through an assistant coach role because you do all the best bits of the job but don't actually get the responsibility. I'm unsure what sort of coach I was as an England coach, Bianca, so maybe give me a little bit of feedback on that. I think one thing that someone said to me when I started out, that I know for a fact that when we start this process, it's going to be the most challenging and it's going to be very, very hard. We've got no name, we've got no venue, we've got no staff, we've got no players. That in itself is just going to be an absolute challenge in itself. I think one thing that I was really, really clear on through my England journey when we started out the professionalisation of the programme, where we had a name, but we didn't have any players, and we started going through this particular rebuild process, was that one thing that you have to do is almost bring your personality. And you never forget who you are and what personality has. And unfortunately, Bianca, I am a bubbly personality. I have got a big personality. I'm unsure what that'll look like in a head coach role out at the Suncorp. But hopefully, I always feel that the staff around you are the ones that sort of enable that and push that through. And they're the ones that give you the confidence to be able to do your job efficiently. So I hope you do see that energetic, passionate, bubbly coach, because that means that there's not a lot of pressure on me, because that is generally what I am. I'm a very positively driven coach. So hopefully that's what will come across, because that's what players will want to see to be able to play well. And I think that is important about the staff team that we put around you, that they can actually drive them particular strengths of my character.
You talk about
staff. Depending who you are.
Trace, you talk about bringing that personality, but it's actually really exciting to kind of build something from scratch. I know you don't have certain things in place, but, you know, being able to establish a brand from the very beginning, it's not an opportunity everyone gets to do. Are you looking forward to that? And being in Melbourne, I mean, there's so many resources. We've got such great talent, as you mentioned. Melbourne's a great place to do it, but just building a brand from the very start, it's not an opportunity you always get. It must be something that you're looking forward to do.
This job and head coach offer didn't come lightly to me, and now I surround myself with very good people who can give me some great advice. And you know, when do you get an opportunity not only to be an head coach but to, you know, write the blueprint? You know, when I've applied for head coach positions or gone into roles before, there's always been a history that someone else. I've always stepped into someone else's shoes, and you're always trying to create something different. And that is in itself I love doing that as well. You know, bringing on the history and establishing the new and the, you know, unfolding the new. This is where you're starting a project from the start, and I think this is why I couldn't not accept the role, because just, you know, the ability to put your own stamp on it from the start. There's no preconceived ideas. There's no, this is the way we did it before. There's no, as you say, blaze the brigade in this particular process. And I think that in itself is quite an exciting thing for me to do. However, I do know it's got a lot of challenges. You know, there's that instability part. You know, there's the trust part, there's the confidence part. And, you know, players who make the decision to come to us, I hope they come for the real strengths of what this franchise is about to uptake rather than the other parts. But I am aware that players, you know, they've got to think of their careers. But, you know, it's not something that I've not gone into before or created before with other franchises that I've been involved in. I'm always one of them that you don't come in and do the same thing over and over again because you just get the same results. And it's about being comfortable, uncomfortable. And I think that is one thing that I always seem to put myself into. I like easy. I think the assistant coach role was a bit of an easy, cushy life, but again, it's about the uncomfortable as well. And I think that's something that I really thrive off.
Well, we can't wait, Trace, to see your bubbly, energetic personality arrive in Melbourne. Good luck for all the prep and what's to come over the next few months. No doubt we will have you back on centre court very soon, talking more about your team. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Bianca. Thank you, Maddie.
Well, that's all we have time for on our Centre Court World Cup pop-up show, all thanks to Flight Centre. Maddie Brown and I will be back for one more show coming up after the final next week. Cannot wait to wrap up the Netball World Cup with you all.